Welcome to the Astrology Forecast, October 2024. And my fellow astrologer, Justin Crockett Elzie, is here with me today. And we're going to talk about October.
That's
How you
right.
doing?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this solar eclipse.
Yes. And
And
fall is here. It's in the
yeah,
air.
yeah. As I was going through looking towards this month, I was trying to think, okay, what's this theme that we see here? And um, the solar eclipse in Libra will be the last one in Libra until 2033. Will be
Wow.
the next solar eclipse in Libra. The last one was in 2023, and the one before that was in 2005. So there's about roughly around 2 to 3 solar eclipses in Libra about every decade, except in the 60s there was none. But in the 50s there was 3 solar eclipses in Libra. In the 60s there weren't any, and then in the 70s there were 3 of them. And then in the 80s, there was only one solar eclipse. And in the 90s, there was only one solar eclipse in Libra. And then, of course, 2004, 2005, both those years had solar eclipses in Libra. And then 2003, last year, and then this year. And then we're not going to see another solar eclipse in Libra. Of course, we'll see more solar eclipses next year, but one in Libra will not happen until 2033.
Well, and to see another South Node eclipse, it's going to be like 18 years, but we'll see a North Node eclipse next time. So
Right. So,
great
I was
information.
thinking, Liz, that here we've been dealing with the South Node, lunar South Node, Ketu, in Libra this whole year. So relationships have been a theme, and it seems like this is maybe culminating here a little bit with Mercury in Libra, Sun in Libra, South Node in Libra, and now this solar eclipse in Libra. It's almost like it seems to be coming to a inflection point after we've dealt with the South Node in Libra for the whole year.
Yes, yes. Relationship issues have been front and center. I would agree.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that today, I know.
So to get a hold of Justin, his website is justincrockettlz.com and my website is alightpath.com, and we always enjoy hearing from you. Okay, the slides want to jump around tonight, so we're going to slow it down a little bit here. So Libra is a cardinal air sign. The ruling planet is Venus, and the key word is I relate. Libra is diplomatic, balanced, harmonious, artistic, charming, seeks justice, and concerned with relationships. And do you want to add anything to that, Justin?
No, I think it seeks to, I would say something about this is that, I find in general in my life, Libras are always trying to find that um they're in this lifetime to understand relationship in general. And they'll tend to always try to find, in general, not everyone, but most of them will try to find the other person that completes them. So there's
Yes.
always this dynamic about getting along with people, but also not losing oneself in a relationship, because that can happen to Libras as well, getting lost in relationships. So they're learning about that. They're learning about the concept of relationship, basically. um, and you said the caution here was what?
Um, Indecisive, dependent, hesitant, and extravagant. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so something that I've realized as we were, looking at some what's kind of going on in society, that a negative aspect of Libra could be racism, um, that shows up, and or just can't get along with relationship, difficulty in relationships.
Thanks. Okay, so October 1st, um, at midnight, the moon will be at 22 degrees Virgo. The moon phase will be a balsamic phase. So that's the relationship with the sun and the moon. So, balsamic phase is about finishing things up and getting ready to move into what you're going to do next. And it's also the dark of the moon, and like to take sometimes people take kind of a quiet time and meditation at that time. And the sun is conjunct the south node in Libra. The ascendant is 18 degrees of Cancer. So Cancer is about family and relationships and nurturing. And then the midheaven's at 22 degrees Pisces. Do you want to speak to any of those or the midheaven, Justin?
Nope, I think you got it. And this is for Seattle.
Yes.
This chart.
And then for out of bounds this month, we have the moon will be out of bounds from October 7th through the 12th and the 20th to the 24th. And out of bounds is when the declination exceeds 23 degrees and 27 minutes north or south. So it's not in the bounds of the sun. And so the planets act on their own. So sometimes they could act like how a 2-year-old wants to, have its independence and maybe everything's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Venus from October 27th through December 3rd. And Ceres been out of bounds since the spring and won't go back in bounds until January 15th of 2025. Planets that are going to ingress into new signs are Venus on the 17th into Sagittarius, and the Sun will ingress into Scorpio on the 22nd of October. Would you like to talk about these ones?
We're moving into Scorpio season. All those Scorpios are going to have a birthday.
Yes. So do you want to talk about the planet stationing?
Yeah, so on October 9th, Jupiter, which we've been dealing with all year, pretty much in Gemini, will actually station retrograde at 21.20 degrees Gemini at 12:05 a.m. in the Pacific Daylight Time, and that's 3:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it will be retrograde in Gemini until February 4th, 2025, and it will then stop, and it'll then go direct, but it will stop at 11.16 Gemini before it goes direct. And then we've been dealing with Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and on October 11th, Pluto actually stations direct. It's going to go direct at 29.39 degrees Capricorn at 5:34 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time and 8:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And so that's our retrogrades and directs for the month.
And then here's an aspect.
Thing about that? Can I say what?
Sure.
So Jupiter in Gemini, which we've been dealing with, right, is because Gemini rules communications and travel and storytelling and social media, and so this could be a time, since we're talking about retrograde for Jupiter, because Jupiter tends to anything it touches magnify. So this could be a different time where a lot of people are now, and it's kind of coming right at the end of the year here, where a lot of us are going to be questioning what we're going to do next for the coming new year. So this could make people a lot more introspective, I would say, and a good time for, if you're a writer or storyteller or communicator. And it's also a good time for reevaluating ideas if you're thinking about starting a podcast or anything of that sort. What do you think about the Jupiter and Gemini retrograde?
Right. And journal your dreams, your ideas, all of it. So, write it down. I'm always a good proponent of write things down.
Good time for writing. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Because then as soon as it goes direct, it's going to go fast.
Okay. And here's the aspect key for everybody. If you want to learn more about that. And then we have the Libra new moon solar eclipse on October 2nd at 10 degrees and 4 minutes of Libra. And we kind of have a Libra party going on there with the South Node, the Sun and Moon, Black Moon Lilith, Mercury, and Juno.
Yep.
You want to say anything more about that, or just
well, I just want to remind folks if they to understanding solar eclipses are about changes, really sort of a change in endings and completions, way it's been kind of seen in history, endings and completion of cycles. So again, that's why I was saying I think this is sort of an inflection point about how we've been dealing with our relationships this year. We're getting a second chance to to look at, get a new perspective. And I think we'll see that in the chart today.
Well, and new moons are all about new beginnings, but when it's an eclipse also, it's kind of supercharges that new beginning energy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is the aspects that the sun and moon are making to the other planets. Um, go ahead and jump in.
Well, we got these on the other slides coming up, don't we?
I don't remember.
Well, I would just say a couple of things here. I think as we're going to go through the month here, I think we're going to see Mercury play a big role for the month here, and it is in Libra, and you can see here that it's it's opposite the North Node there, and it's doing several things this month. It's quincunxing almost like 3 or 4 planets, and so when we have a quincunx, which is like you have it in there, an adjustment or imbalance or a mystical aspect, we look at what planets are trining it. And so we're going to see in the upcoming slides where Mercury is playing a particular important role in communications this month, and how we may be able to get a new perspective about things, about our communications with others in this month.
Well, and the red X in the chart is a cardinal cross, so it's like that energy to initiate and start new things. It's like reinforces that energy of the new moon and a solar eclipse of starting new things, and it can just be updating something that you already have or bringing a new product out.
Right.
Oops.
And I want to say something. I want to say something about, as we talk about these planets. We start out the month with that water grand trine, which we're going to see there. But that, I think Mars is again important here. It's in a water sign. Mars is that how we take effort and action. It's an agitator, and it's in Cancer. So this is the month where, as a collective, people are going to feel a lot more emotional. Of course, we can see that in the collective happening. People are being much more emotional about what they want. And it's definitely going to be a lot of free-flowing emotions, as it's playing a role this month as part of the Water Grand Trine, which we're going to look at.
Good. Okay, so on the 2nd is the new moon eclipse. The 3rd, Mercury in Libra, quincunxes Saturn in Pisces. On the 4th, Venus is in Scorpio, trine Saturn in Pisces. Then on the 5th, Mercury in Libra squares Mars in Cancer. And on the 6th, the Sun in Libra quincunxes Saturn in Pisces. And these dates are the exact dates, and we're breaking it into 1 week at a time, but they're applying. And so these aspects oftentimes are very active. It can be days or weeks for some of them. And this one, yeah, you can see that water grand trine with the blue triangle in there.
Right. So what's your thoughts about first of all, that grand trine there?
Well, a grand trine is an energy of cooperation and movement, and usually it's with ease. Now it's with the South Node. No, it's with Saturn and Nessus, Venus and Mars. So it's like we have 2 malefics and 1 benefic. So, lots of times, depending on what planets are involved, it, has a different feel. So, Saturn's about boundaries. Mars is about, agitation or let's move things forward. And then Venus, is about what we like and desire. But Venus is in a sign that she is not the happiest in, and Mars is in a sign that Mars isn't the happiest in. But with that water movement, and we just had that big hurricane go through the West Coast and flood out Tennessee and Western North Carolina. So it's like that water and new boundaries. Maybe there's new boundaries to create.
Right. I agree. Well, so this is where I kind of wanted to go with this. So this Mercury in Libra, as we can see, is quincunxing Saturn. That's a part of that flowing water trine, right? So, of course, in my experience, when Mercury is quincunxing Saturn, this is giving us a chance to be patient and listening and emotional listening. And then, of course, when it's, Mars is actually trining Saturn, which relates to emotional courage. And of course, Venus is trining Saturn, so this is, Venus is about our desires, and Saturn's, I think, showing Venus here a particular different view or structure to see so that we can get the outcome that we want emotionally in relationships. So we've got this communications, emotional desires about relationships, and listening. So this could be, the time when people actually say, okay, I want a desired outcome with this relationship with this person. I want to improve it. So I'm going to listen. I'm going to really focus on what my desire is and what structure I need to change or look at emotionally, understand the structure of emotions in order to get the desired outcome in a relationship. And that's looking at that quincunx with Mercury, and with any quincunx, we look at a trine with one of the major planets, and that's that water grand trine, kind of affecting it.
Right, and that water grand trine also forms a kite with Ceres down there being the point of and she's sextile to Venus and Saturn. So, she is about resolving some of our issues, whatever has caused us grief in the past, and how can
Right.
we, finish letting that go. So that really ties into the relationships.
And I
And
think, yeah. And I was going to just say one other thing, and I think that it's not going to be a pretty picture because Mercury squares Mars here in Cancer, so that does mean some tension with emotions and communications, right? Our emotions and the communications and relationships. There's going to be some tension there.
But oftentimes, for some tension to be there, if things were all easy, hunky dory, we don't make changes. When
Right.
things are uncomfortable, then we can, decide to make some changes. And we
Absolutely.
also have two T squares because Ceres has been T square the nodes, but then that involves the sun, the moon, all those Libra planets are square involved in that T square. So that's a pretty powerful T square. And oftentimes that's just asking us to make adjustments and changes.
Right.
And then the other T square goes from the sun and moon to Mars, and then Mars is square Chiron, right? I think so. So, T squares, it's like asking us to make adjustments. And I would say the grand trine is helping us make those adjustments. It's like it might seem difficult, but it probably won't be as difficult as you think.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to go to October 8th through the 14th, and we still have a water grand trine that's continuing. And then we have Venus trine Mars, Mercury, or trine Mars, Mercury is trine Jupiter, and Mercury is opposite Chiron all on the same day. And then on the 9th, Jupiter stations retrograde in Gemini. And on the 10th, Venus is quincunx Jupiter and Chiron in Aries. On the 11th, Mercury is in quincunx Uranus and Pluto. Oh, Uranus and Pluto stations direct on the 11th. And then on the 12th, we have Jupiter sextile Chiron, and then Mercury is quincunx Neptune. And on the 13th, Mercury ingresses into Scorpio, Mars squares Chiron, Sun opposes Chiron, and Sun trines Jupiter. Can you read the last one because it's covered up on my screen?
Sun squares Mars and Venus opposition to Uranus.
Yeah, so kind of a busy week that second week of October, a lot going on.
Well, and then I'm going to go back to Mercury again here because we see that it quincunxes really the major, it quincunxes Saturn, all those outer planets. It's quincunxing. So it's quincunxing Saturn first, then it hits Uranus, and then it hits Neptune. And so it almost seems like we're going through this process with the communication aspect looking at the structure of how we're thinking and our communications, and then with Uranus adjusting our point of view, possibly with Mercury quincunxing Uranus, and then of course when it quincunxes Neptune, being perceptive and sensitive, right, to what to those communications.
And then we have a finger of God with one handle being Vesta and the other handle being Venus, and they're pointing to Chiron. So what do you think of that one?
The what is, I can't I'm looking at the screen there. See, Venus
is sextile to Vesta, and then they're both pointing to Chiron in a finger of God. So
well,
that's
yeah,
like,
I think, and so yeah, this brings in the other thing around Chiron, because it's I think the Venus quincunx Jupiter being a part of that on the 10th is again, I think it's back to our desires of what we're wanting to accomplish as far as our communications. And I don't know about you, but that Venus quincunx Jupiter can be sort of a charismatic or charisma effect and charming. So this could mean where we focus a little bit on how we're communicating, and of course, Chiron being in Aries, about valuing the individual, through this whole process, and respecting others.
well, and I would say with the finger of God, pointing to Chiron, it's like time to, if you haven't made steps to like work on what needs to be healed or what you need to share and teach to other people, it might be time to start putting it into practice or start making steps to work on that.
Right.
Because it seems like you would have good results from whatever steps that you did to move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and then we come to the Aries full moon on October 17th. And conjunct the moon is Chiron and Eris, and it's opposite Sun and Juno. That's a pretty powerful combination.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That Juno, conjuncting the sun, it's almost like a relationship with ourselves. I think it'll be, basically starting a new relationship with where we're going, with ourselves.
Right. And since we've had the nodes in the relationship spots, and now we have this opposition, to me, it's like, getting relationships, like work on healing them, or get counseling if you need it, or is it time to let a relationship go? It's like, kind of time to like get serious about it
Right.
and not let
It's
it
a full
sit.
moon. Right.
Okay, and then here's the aspects that the full moon is making. And we can probably see that in the next slide, or do you want to talk about any of
Well,
this?
I do want to point out one thing here is kind of important, and we're going to see even come to more exact in the first part of November, which we'll have next month, or in November. But this Mars Pluto opposition, which I think is kind of important there. Pluto in Capricorn and Mars in Cancer is, of course, a sort of a parental effect going on there. And so we may find that people who are maybe caregiving others, they really are, there could be situations that come up with our parents or caregiving with that Mars Jupiter. But it definitely is trying to bring change, but it's at a standstill. What do you think about that?
Well, and they can both see each other, and they're both, Pluto is somewhat of a malefic too. So that Mars and Pluto, they're kind of, to me, it feels like they're standing off each other. It's like they're not sure how they want to proceed, but they're kind of looking at each other, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, it's a good time to do some healing for sure.
Right. And, I think, as we see that Pluto is going to go direct here, and I think at this point it's it'll go
November 19th. Oh no,
right.
it goes, Pluto goes direct. Pluto is direct here, but it won't.
Right. So here with Pluto direct, it's about that change of structure, right? It's turning, it's changing the structure, because Capricorn's about structure. And then of course Mars is opposing it in that emotional aspect of taking action. So this could mean a time where we, reevaluate how we're emotionally invested in some of the changes that are happening in our
Well,
life.
and Pluto stationed direct on the 11th, so this is 6 days later. So, that energy of and especially an outer planet changing directions, it's, pretty turbulent, so to speak. And Pluto is at 29 degrees, that last degree of Capricorn. And pretty soon, I think it's November 19th, that Pluto goes back into Aquarius. So, that changing energy of trying to hold on to the old way, but like we really need to make changes and move forward and not think of the old ways.
Right, right. And I
How
think
can we make
because
it better?
I agree. And I think because they are opposing one another, anytime planets I've found in my experience, that when they're opposing one another, they're not moving forward so quickly, because it's like two people tied on two ends of a rope trying to pull, right? And so I think this could be a time when we're kind of feel like we need to change something, structure about something and emotionally, but we can't, because there's an evaluation about, at this point, it's almost like a standstill, like you said, a kind of a trade-off.
Well, Mars moves a lot faster and wants to hurry up and do it, but Pluto's like, let's slow down and we'll take our time doing this.
Right.
Okay, then the week of October 15th through the 21st, we have an Earth Grand trine, which makes a kite, and then we have a cardinal grand cross. And the aspects that are happening that week are: the 15th is Venus is trine Neptune. On the 17th is the Aries full moon. Venus ingresses into Sagittarius, and Venus is sextile to Pluto. On the 18th, Sun is quincunx Uranus, and on the 20th, the Sun is quincunx Neptune, and on the 21st, Mercury is trine Saturn. So what would you like to say about this? I mean, it's kind of repeating the same thing that's been happening all month for October.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. One thing that jumps out to me in this chart, though, is the Mars squaring the moon. So, that's like fire and water, right? The moon is in that Aries, and then Cancerian Mars. They're in opposite signs of one another. So it's what do you think about that?
Well, because the Grand Cardinal Cross, and it's still that opposition with that Mars and Pluto. Um, it's like trying to decide, what do I move forward with now, or what do I let go of? What happens? It's like it might be difficult to make the decision of what to move forward with, but you will make the decision, and it doesn't have to be in a hurry to make those decisions.
Right. Well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that the grand trine moved to Earth, so the players are Uranus and Pluto and the ascendant and Vesta, basically. So it changed from water to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, a grand trine acts like Venus, but the one before was in water. Now this one's in Earth. So it's like maybe wanting to ground things down a little bit. But we have a kite. Mars is sextile to the ascendant in Vesta and Uranus, and the descendant is another point, or Neptune is another sextile. So we have two kites really there. So it's like we have the outer planets are all involved in this.
Right.
So maybe making some decisions around, do you want to make some improvements to your house, your business? Do you want to have a bigger house, a smaller house, live closer to kids? All kinds of different decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And that mutual reception, I think that can be positive between the Mars and the moon there. Um, with really accomplishing what we want to accomplish, even though it's part of Mars is also squaring the sun there, so some action has to happen in our relationships emotionally at this point.
Yes. And then October 22nd to the 31st, we have 2 cardinal T-squares. One is the nodes in Ceres, and the other one is Mars, Juno, and Eris. And then we go back to a water grand trine kite, and the kite goes to Ceres. And then on the 22nd, we have the Sun square Pluto. And also the Sun ingresses into Scorpio that same day. And on the 24th, Mars is sextile Uranus. On the 26th, Mercury is quincunx Chiron. On the 27th, Mercury is quincunx Jupiter. On the 28th, Mars is trine Neptune, and Venus is square Saturn. On the 30th, Mercury is opposite Uranus, and on the 31st, Mercury is trine Neptune. So every week is full of all kinds of activity, that's for sure.
And again, I point out what Mercury's doing here is a lot. Mercury seems to be playing a major factor this month, the planet of communications and how we're thinking about things.
Well, on the 30th, when Mercury's opposite Uranus, think about how you're communicating maybe the day before and that day and the day after, because it's very likely you could say things that you don't mean and you can't take it back.
Right, and it's trining Jupiter, at the same time there, so that's definitely auspicious for expansion of communications, and that.
Right, and all the quincunxes Mercury has. So Chiron, it's like you don't want to cause any wounds with your words either. So be kind with your words, probably that whole end of the last week of October.
Right.
So do you have anything else to share about the last week of October?
Well, I think there's definitely as we, for the whole Libra Scorpio archetype here, because the sun will square Pluto. This at this short juncture here, I think that's really, if a person is within those last degrees of Libra sun or early degrees of Scorpio sun, this could be a time when they actually probably a big point of change in the year, an inflection point for those people that have their sun within our birthdays right around this period of time.
Oh, that's good. So it's like be patient with yourself, be patient with others, write things down, be kind to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
breathe, meditate, get ready to, move forward, whether it's writing a book or teaching a class or starting a new business. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think again Mercury plays a big role here, so I think this could be a month when we really kind of change our perspective about things, and we reassess how we're communicating in our relationships, and looking for new ways to communicate, new perspectives, and I think that's a really good thing that as we go forward in this collective, which is kind of crazy this year, all about relationships. I think this is a good time as an inflection point in the year.
Good. Okay, I have a quote to share. All of life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You get to decide which prophecy yourself will fulfill. And that's by Alan Cohen. And Justin and I both have newsletters and YouTube channels, so we appreciate you subscribing. And upcoming episodes, Justin and I do the full moon forecast, the astrology forecast for the month, and we're working on the Chiron asteroid series. Then I have another program, the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea, with the Dwarf Planet series with Sue Minahan, Jupiter retrograde and Pluto direct with Madam Simon, Scorpio Deacons Astrology and Tarot with Joy Vernon, and You're a Sky Full of Stars, Part 3, which is on the fixed stars with Marcia Bouchard. Then Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos on October 27th at 1 p.m. And it'll be the Scorpio new moon. So we look forward to having you join us. And Justin, I'll let you talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, I've got some stuff on Instagram, and then I also do a podcast with Michael Bartlett out of New Mexico. And we have a podcast called The Relationship Guys, so you have to check it out.
And again, to get a hold of Justin, it's justincrockettLZ.com, and my website is alightpath.com. And we always enjoy hearing from you, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes. And thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be talking with you about the solar eclipse there, Liz. See you next month.
Okay, thanks. Bye for now.